Welcome, everybody, to the Key to Games podcast here on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. I am Josh Beiser, and joining me this week, my co host, developer working on the upcoming game Samurai Pig, Joshua Reyes. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, my man. Quiet week for me, but I'm kind of excited about this topic. I think it's really important, so I'm excited to get
hmm
going with it. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing alright. I'm like a bit like run down this week, so I've been trying to keep somewhat relaxed.
I'm feeling that. I'm feeling you. Like I think I'm this week. I'm gonna take a real good relaxation if I can somehow. Well
hmm
needed.
Definitely. But yeah, this topic is very important because it's actually going to
Very.
be part of my next book, and I spelled ethical wrong, so I'll take care of that really fast. But yeah, we are talking monetization and kind of I guess, the do's and don'ts, or what is fair and unfair. And this is a topic that will be here, if we get into it, I'll be here for like the next 4 or 5 hours, easily because it is a major point of my next book, Game Design Deep Dive Free to Play, which is at date for in August. So do all that pre-ordering and check that one out. But one of the big reasons why I wanted to write free to play was on the topic of ethical monetization. It is a very, I think, murky area. It's something that I think a lot of developers don't really think about, and it's still, I think, very up in the air as to what is fair and what is unfair when it comes to monetization.
Exactly. And I think this game is a perfect example of, if you could like cook up a perfect recipe for a game to kind of bring up this topic, this would be it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the game itself, like Diablo, is uh, like the design of it is just fits perfectly in with this whole thing. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that is a really good point. And for people who somehow don't know what we're talking about or didn't see the thumbnail, Diablo Immortal finally released this week. Of course, this is the game that started the very, I think, long-standing wave of anti-Blizzard backlash with the infamous "Don't you have phones?" line from BlizzCon. The game has been released on PC, it's on mobile, and to, I think, very little surprise, at least to people who cover mobile games and stuff like that, it's a huge hit. People are playing it, they are spending lots and lots of money, and it's got, I think, a lot of traditional gamers, traditional journalists kind of sitting there scratching their heads as to what is
Yeah.
this? Why? What are these loot boxes and battle passes? And it basically hits. There you go, pun.
No.
It hits pretty much so much of what I think is really considered like second generation monetization. Or even we could maybe call like third generation in terms of monetization in the mobile space. It has loot boxes, it has a battle pass, it has multiple currencies, it has from what I've heard, I have not gotten this far into the game yet, but I've heard people say it is very unfriendly to free to play players in terms of its currency, in terms of its rates, and to a lot of people, they don't care. There are a lot of YouTubers and streamers saying the game is amazing, it's great. Just, close your eyes and pretend that the loot boxes and monetization doesn't exist. And this has been, I think, a very long standing, I guess, like dirty secret of mobile games for the past decade.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Man, like you were saying, I was just kind of like looking through feeds, and seeing stuff, and then you'd see some stuff about Diablo, Immortal, and 100K to level up everything, and then I started noticing the PvP is the best, and it's amazing, and then I
Mm-hmm.
started noticing this huge there are a ton of people really loving this game, and well, I did get some time playing it, and I gotta say, it's a really like if all of this monetization, like the surgical precision of monetization wasn't embedded into the game, I think we'd be talking about like a really good Diablo game that came out this time, or we wouldn't even be talking about it because we're, oh, Diablo, it's a great game, it's out. But yeah, the way that it has like literally every every trapping, every like conceivable form of monetization, every form of it is in it, and it's like perfectly engineered. And I could see how some people that don't care, the whales, I guess we could say, that don't really care, I'm just going to spend the money and play it and this and that. I can see because it's a good game. But on the other hand, I think this is kind of past the canary in the coal mine of in gaming of like where we're at. This is kind of like if this like apparently it's going to work and it's going to take off. And so if it does really good, like we could be looking at a lot of games like this, and that this could kind of be the future of gaming, right? If we're not careful.
Hmm. If Ramin wasn't out and still traveling, we should get him on for this, and then we
Please,
really would be here
please.
for like the next few
Yeah.
days. But yeah, I was looking up while you were talking if there was like any concrete or just some basic sales numbers to what Diablo Immortal has pulled in. And according to Blizzard 4 days ago, the game has made just about $6.3 million in less than a week of launch. And like this is getting close to like Genshin Impact numbers.
Yeah,
Like
how much
their
did Genshin do?
Genshin made a ton. Let me see if I can find it. Genshin Impact Week One sales. They made. Oh no, they made. No, that's I made a quick like sorry. First week they made 60 million for Genshin,
Hmm.
and yeah, like everyone is saying that it is the lowest rated Diablo game, but it is the most financially speaking very successful in terms of what it's doing. And again, like this is something that Ramin and people like him and I have been talking about for the last decade that this stuff works. There is no denying that these systems are effective. There's a piece on the Polygon where the writer was saying like Diablo Immortal has in a way soured them on Diablo 2 and to some respect Diablo 3 because the systems of progression, the systems that keep you wanting to play it, they've existed since the very first game. It's just that the monetization wasn't tied completely to that. And again, for people who remember, Diablo 3 had its own in game economy with the auction house.
Yeah, a little bit. They were kind of testing the waters there, people, and they kind of. I think they changed a few things, but they were really testing it, trying to go um, full auction house, full pay to win. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess it didn't work that time.
No, and the problem was they tried to force it. And this is
Yeah.
something that I think Rami and I have spoken about that when it came to kind of virtual economies, developers tend to do one of two things. They either try to stamp it out, stomp it into the dust or into the ground, hoping that it doesn't take off, which unfortunately it then does, as we've seen with CSGO, World of Warcraft, Gold Farmers, and all that. Or they try to embrace it so much that they bend the design over backwards to try and make it work. This is what happened with Diablo 3, with
Yes.
Shadow of War, the second Lord of the Rings game, Star Wars Battlefront,
Battlefront.
For Honor, I think would be a good example. I think
Mhm.
when For Honor was released, they said that it would take like 3 years in order
Yeah.
to earn the first year's, worth of content if they didn't add anything else into the game.
Right. Right.
And it is again that situation of this kind of design when it gets like wrapped around this way, it's very hard to distance the gameplay from it. And again, like I said, I've not played Diablo Immortal all the way. I've played about 30 to 40 minutes of it. I think I'm like level 8, maybe level 9, somewhere
Okay.
along
Well,
those
then
lines.
I got to level 12.
Yeah.
So I spent a little more time. I actually was playing with the controller on my
Mm-hmm.
PC. I was playing the open PC beta.
Mm-hmm.
The wife played it on the phone, and I just couldn't. I couldn't play it on the phone. Were you playing on the phone?
Yeah, my problem. Yeah, my hands are just too ginormous for a lot of
Yeah,
phone plays. I will say though that the UI seem. Yeah, I know, Paul. Yeah, we have not yet reached the pay to win.
I just saw like the first one. It's all get ready with your first UI unlock, and I was like, okay. And then and that's it. And I
Yeah, the
stopped there.
chat opened up and I got like 37 different spam messages of click here for free gold, click here for
Yeah,
free loot. And I'm like trying to
yeah.
figure out how to turn all that off.
And then all of a sudden, yeah, I started seeing everybody everywhere, and I was like, is this an MMO? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, the PC port is a little. It's. I mean, it works. So
There's the perfect quote for Blizzard in 2022. It works. Yep, and to Pug's comment about it starts much later, and this is something again that we see from a lot of monetization. I talk about this in my next book, that a lot of these games they purposely push you through the early to mid game to kind of get you into the feel of playing the game before they hit you with the monetization,
mm,
before they start introducing those pain points. When all of a sudden, a boss goes from being this hard to this hard, or when they start really pushing whatever's going to be the monetization model, whether it's a gacha, a loot box, battle pass, and so on.
yeah,
And again, this is where it gets very murky in terms of what is fair and unfair monetization. Because, and this is something I said in the book and a few posts I wrote, that developers deserve to earn money from the content they put into their games. No game is going to survive if a developer keeps working on it and not bringing money in. This was one of the major things Valve talked about in their 2012 GDC talk. That if you want to continue developing a game for months, if not years, revenue needs to keep coming in. No game, no matter how well it does 1 month, is not going to support 5, 10, 15 years worth of development. Not even something like Minecraft or Factorio. But
yeah.
then the question falls, what is the break line? What is the guard or the rail post or the guard post to say, we gotta stop? Like, we can't just keep monetizing everything.
Mhm. Like I think, like to Pug's comment, I think really the uproar about this, I think, people are fine with, just regular horse armor and season passes and stuff like that. But this one, like how you're talking about how it has just every form, right, of from different currencies to the
Mm-hmm.
season passes that expire. Like there's a stat called resonance. Probably someone in the chat can it's in allowed in PvP. So you can purchase this PvP type power that you can use in PvP. So you're just gonna have a bunch of like money residents people fighting for PvP. So PvP is competitive on how much you can really put
Wait,
into it.
wait. So
Um,
does the resonance stat, does that make you stronger in PvP?
someone correct me, but I know it's not capped in PvP. So anyone could chime in on that. The level is capped, but residence is not. So I know it does affect you stronger somehow, some way. I don't want to, but I know that for sure.
It's good when I type Diablo Immortal R and it comes up as the very first thing here.
Not retail purchase. No.
No. Looks like it's something to do with your legendary gems, which
Yeah.
I want to come back to that one in a second here. In case
Yeah.
I forget, remind me. But to Pug's comment about the very first purchase being really cheap, yeah, that is, monetization 100 as a
101. Yeah.
tactic. That the
Mhm.
very first thing the new players purchase, the first time reward, making it super duper cheap. When I was doing research for the mobile book, I was playing the game Figure Fantasy, and the very first purchase was like, we're going to give you a month's worth of its battle pass or its resource pass for 99 cents when it's normally $5. And yeah, like again, like to what you just said, $1 to get 6 months. Again, this is one of those very subtle psychological tricks that is an amazing deal. And it's an amazing deal for that exact reason. Because once it gets you to spend $1, it becomes easier to spend the next, and then the next more. And then you get that sunk cost fallacy of, well, I can't stop playing this game. I've spent $100 in it. In the one that I'm playing right now, Arc Knights, I took their monthly pass for about 3 months, which is about $15. And even then, I feel like it's a just on that bubble of being fair. But I'm starting to reach a point where I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing it. But I'm not going to be spending like 30, 40, $50 a month on that game. And again, with something like Diablo Immortal, these early purchases, once they get you in, then they again save the really big stuff for the very end, for the end game, or I should say the late game, because there is not going to be an end. I'm sure they've already got several months worth of new areas, new gems, and all that, just
There's no
waiting and
end.
raring to be
Yeah,
released.
there's no end in that game, not at all. I think just from their like initial cash revenue, there's no end.
Hmm. I'm trying to find like a basic written guide on Resonance without going to like one of these like various like random fan sites.
I'm trying to find like about how much a month, like say if I wanted to like I don't know, competitively play. I think I was seeing something about like 50, 60 a month.
Oof.
Like if I wanted to stay actively playing, I think I'm not sure. Someone in chat who's watched some more breakdowns on it.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for chat, again, this is where that economy of monetization comes in. That on one hand, 100,000 for fully, oh my goodness. That on one hand, if a developer releases a new skin or a new character or new story content, it's fair to have some kind of monetary, cost for that. You again, if the game's not making money, it's not going to survive. That's just the nature of how this works. But when it gets to the point where a game is asking you to spend 40, 50, $60 a month, or that it's free, but it needs you, if you want any chance of surviving, here comes $100, 100 plus lifetime spend. That is a huge problem, especially when it's manipulating someone. How
Yeah,
many mobile games have, best deal or limited time offer?
yeah,
One of my favorites was from Marvel Contest of Champions, where it literally gives you a limited time offer every time you make a 5 or 6 star pull in a banner to then get you to spend money to upgrade that character. It's programmed into the game to generate that every single time.
wow, wow. Yeah, the tactics in this game are just immense, man. And again, though, like such a like when I was playing it, I had a really enjoyable game. Like
Mm-hmm.
overall, like just height, like all like Blizzard took. They said, okay, we need the best like psychological, behavioral
Mm-hmm.
people in the world for every type of monetization. They got them all in a room and they got it all together and they just perfectly like merged it with this game. And like you were saying, you can't really distance the monetization from the game in this
Mm-hmm.
one at all.
Yep, and that is oftentimes where the rubber meets the road for a lot of these games. That if you try to play this game without the monetization, the whole thing just tends to break down. Like there's either like not enough content to justify playing it, or the game is just broken. That it's very easy if you get every 6 star character or every legendary gem, and what can a free player do? And I think this is again like I could easily start like quoting. I could pull up my draft on my book here and like stream it. And I could like have a little dissertation here. And there has to be fairness to free players. Like there has to be an in for someone who doesn't spend any money. And one of the things that I said in the book, I think this is a very important point about ethical monetization, is that free players don't expect to get everything at the same rate. That if
Yeah.
I'm spending $0 and you're spending $500, I don't expect to hit the same thing fast or equal to you. But there should come a point where I can be at that same level, be it through getting enough free resources, be it through having enough options. And when that's not there, it's forcing someone to spend money, and that is one of the major points I said that's not considered player friendly design. That you should never feel like I can't move forward unless I spend X amount of dollars. And again, so many games are designed otherwise.
Yeah. And man, like just again, real quick, a side tangent, like if they could have done something, you could have done this like in a much simpler way with a simple battle pass, like just
Hmm.
so more streamlined, a much simpler thing, and you'd have a whole different situation here.
Yeah.
But they are going. I think what they're doing, like what they did with the auction house, they were pushing the boundaries, seeing what they could do here. They got the bully pulpit now,
Hmm.
and they're taking it up. They have all the marketing, they got all the money, they have all the push, and they're seeing how much can we take, how much can we push, and so and again, like Puck said, I think that people are really buying into it, and they're not going to, say, "Oh, well, this game, I don't want to spend money." There are the whales that are existing. They're there. They're buying the game.
Hmm.
The model works, like you said. You got a book on it. The model works. Like, for
Hmm.
example, like I'll just like consuming content, for example, this morning I went and I bought my son a little Fisher Price like farm thing. I got him a farm thing. On the back of it, it has different ones, like it has a school, a farm thing, whatever. So he's looking at the thing, and gets his toy, and he looks at the back, and he's like, "Oh, I want the school thing." So as soon as he got the toy, the new one, he was concerned with the new one, right? And then at the end of the
Hmm.
day, he didn't even play with it. He started painting rocks later on. So that's just like an example. Like if my 5-year-old with like the best like patience, and he has the ultimate reserve to impulse control, and if he can't do it, I'm not expecting the rest for like our fellow gamers when it comes to this game.
Yeah, and I think that is another really important point when we discuss about this. Because a lot of these games, you can play them without spending money. You can, if you're smart enough, if you understand the mechanics, you can get very far either free or with spending very little. Returning to Contest of Champions, there are people, and I've watched streamers who do 7-day challenges where they'll start a brand new account and they'll see how far they can get within that 7-day period. And some of these players can make months, maybe even a year's worth of progress in 7 days. And this is because they have, hours and years of experience in this game. They know exactly what things to buy in the store. They know what things they need exactly at when to get through it. And it's the same thing with a lot of these games. There's a lot of that discussion about being able to punch up. That, with my free account, or if I only buy one thing, I can do all of this. But here's the point. As you just said, yes, that works for those expert players. But what about everyone else?
What
What
else?
about people who have gambling tendencies or who can fall prey to this kind of psychological manipulation? What about children with poor impulse controls who get access to your phone, or you have your credit card number saved on Google Play and they buy who knows how much? And this is something that Ramin has been talking about for years now, with how so many mobile and free to play games have elements directly there to get kids to spend money in
Yeah,
some kind of way, shape, or form. And again, for a lot of us, we know we're not going to be spending the best deal for $149 on a game. But there are people out there who will see that and go, well, that's a really good deal. I
that's
guess I should spend that.
the best deal. Let's get it.
you know, Limited time offer. I only get for 5 more days. What am I going to do? And this is where it gets very unethical. That there's nothing wrong with having cosmetic skins or new characters or new maps or expansions. But when you put stuff in there that, again, it has been proven to manipulate people, this is, again, very much the same tactics we see in the gambling industry and at casinos.
That's
That is
correct,
a
Art.
very big problem, and it's something that the industry still hasn't really rectified.
Yeah. And like, wow, I don't even know. I mean, just like when we have the AAA heading in this direction, um, you could say, oh, well, we could go to indie and this and that. And like, just like I said again, they're taking up all the oxygen engine in the room, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're taking up as much oxygen as they can, and basically like pushing the market a certain way. So, we can fight with our wallets, but like I said, there's already people that are putting tons of money into it. Um, but
Yep.
yeah,
And thank you, Pony, for that. I should pin that as well. And hey, look, Chris, as well. And
Hey, Chris.
and again, like the thing, what's very, I'm not sure this is
Funny.
ironic or just funny about Diablo Immortal is that there's Path of Exile. Path of
Yeah.
Exile is famously the game that it probably had the greatest market timing out of any game ever
Right?
released. It came,
Totally.
it came out in 2014. I think this was a year after or really close to Diablo 3, and they basically just said, hey, we're Diablo 3 without all the bad monetization.
Yep.
That was
It
all
was
they
like,
needed.
right? Like all they had the auction house stuff was all going on at that time, right? Wasn't that bad press happening? And then
Oh,
they came
yes.
out. Yeah, it was perfect. And I same thing. I was like, I don't want to play Diablo, and I went and played Path of Exile, so it worked for me.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like to Malwinius' comment that, as we were saying earlier, that once you start seeing like these aspects, that when you start to see like how the money is
Yeah.
shifting these mechanics in a way that
Yeah.
it implies or it definitely rewards spending over playing the game, that is when it gets very problematic. I just spent 100K and still not get 5 star. Ask me, yeah, here's the question: what's wrong? What happened there? How do you feel? And with this was something again that Ramin and I were talking about when it came to even just the basic concept of trying to nail down when something is pay to win. That if a paying player can make progress, 5, 10, 100 times faster than someone who's not paying, that is arguably pay to win, even if it's in a single player game. If it takes me 30 hours of play to do what you can do in 2 minutes, that doesn't really feel right. And again, when I can rant about cosmetics as well, that if cosmetics can only exist through monetization, there's no free way, and this is something that I talk about in the book and on player friendly design, that a free player should be able to access everything. Not the same way, not immediately, but there should not be something that someone just puts up a hand and says, you must pay $5.99 or you can't do this, or you can't get this.
Yeah. But like Pony was saying, I think the discrepancy like between like not buying and buying is like massive. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like how it affects your power level, I think it's like just like astronomical, between certain gyms and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And each upgrade, is based on the previous value, like okay, next
Mm-hmm.
value is better, etc. Um, but yeah.
To Chris's comment, so what you're saying is that it's essentially like the game has its own, like I guess, quote unquote, in-game store. So would this be something like maybe like an Earth Defense Force or like a Lost Planet 2? I'm trying to think of some other examples. If you can name any, feel free to put that in chat. And yeah, like again, when it's so huge, this was another very famous example. Okay, so it's that kind of, or even something like Mortal Kombat 10 and 11, where they had the crypt spelled
Yeah.
KRYPT. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
But again, if you can just say, okay, you can, oh yeah, and actually, I'm glad I brought Mortal Kombat. I remember they had one of the monetization purchases was unlock everything in the crypt. So you can either play the entire game or give them, I think it was like 14 or 19.99, and here's all the unlocks.
And that was a big hoopla. Like it was
Yeah.
like $14 back in the day, and like I remember journalists being like, "Oh my God, why do I have to pay 14 for this?" And that
Yeah.
it was like when it was new. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's just old hat. Now we're up to 100K, 500K.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like when that discrepancy between like being a free and paying player, there we go, is so vast, and especially if the paying players get access to stuff that is completely unique or there is no free counter to it. This was, excuse me, one of the things I brought up with Marvel Strike Force, where they introduce a character who can counter a very special ability, but you can only get that as a legendary unlock, and no one else in the free play side can get anything that's comparable. So basically, free players have to survive for like months while this character has all these advantages, and you can't do a damn thing about it. And I
Wow.
remember like streamers and YouTubers who cover that game who are like so in love with it, they were saying, I don't like the system, but you have to give paying players something. It's only fair for them. You gotta give them something to, spend their money on. If they don't feel like it, that's bad for them. And
Wow,
as I
that is
was
some like
watching
what
that, I'm
is
like,
that victim some kind of that's some mind bending right there to try and
yeah.
rationalize that. Wow.
There you go, Chris. Just convert all your purchases into gem purchases in real life. How much does a pizza cost for? How much will a pizza get you
Right.
gem wise
How
in
many gems for
Diablo?
the pizza?
Oh, speaking about pizza, I heard that in the new Turtle game, that if you get the physical edition, it comes with a free coupon for a Pizza Hut pizza.
Okay, then I'm
There you
getting it
go.
for sure. I'm sold.
Yep. And again, like when we talk about, and I won't get to Pug's comment after this, but when we talk about monetization, that you you want to make stuff that incentivizes play or incentivizes paying, but it should not come at the expense of your free players. Because any game that is only aimed at the whales is not going to survive. Because it's going to become such a closed and limited circle of people playing that game that it's going to become impossible for anyone else to jump in. A new player signs up for a game, the first thing they're paired next to is, max level, I have every 6-star character, I just kill you. And you're just sitting there like, okay, what was I supposed to do? I still remember like the first time I played Hearthstone,
Yeah.
and I was like playing against what was supposedly a new player, and like for like 5 turns in a row, they just kept throwing legendary cards at me. It's like, hey, I count this card, and okay, I'm gonna throw no legendary. I'm like, okay, well, let me
Yeah,
do these 3 cards. Oh, let me throw another legendary. I'm just like, okay, like I feel like there's like that Yu-Gi-Oh situation with the Blue Eyes White Dragon just keeps throwing those cards out and killing me.
yeah, man. I had the same thing happen to me. I think that was my last game. I was like, yeah, because I didn't want to buy, I didn't want to pay into that game.
Oh, it was Pug doing that all along. That's the long story arc right there. And nice, Chris, as well for the pizza. And this is again why this gets very murky when it comes to these games. So that Command and Conquer, as a very funny point, both Command and Conquers, the Command and Conquer 4 and the Command and Conquer mobile game, also have these issues. And Pony was mentioning the Disney free to play like Mario Kart game,
Ah,
and that also sounds very similar. They have like levels and progression, but if you're level 5 and I'm level 3, and my card is 20 mph slower than yours,
mhm.
it doesn't matter if I'm the best player.
Yep.
Another game I brought was Albatross 18. I'm going way back. This is like early 2000s. If anyone remembers this one, this was kind of free to play Hot Shots Golf, and you can spend money to get new clubs, and the new clubs literally have further drive distances. So as a free player, I could maybe only hit as far as, let's say, 200 yards. A paying player could hit maybe 350 to 400 yards. Well, it doesn't matter how great I am at putting if it takes me 5 more shots to get to the green than you do. You're just going to beat me no matter what. And with Command Conquer, it's that same issue. Like when you have a rock, paper, scissors element attached to this, that if you're higher than me and you have a character that I can't counter, what am I supposed to do? Like, where is my route to victory if I don't spend any money?
You have to play longer and slowly acquire the gems
And
over
kind of just
months
like
and months.
suffer through it.
Suffer through it, and hopefully you can get 1 or 2 wins and keep suffering.
Yeah. And I do remember a little bit of the Golden Mongol debacle from EVE Online. I think they were selling like it was supposed to be, I think, just a cosmetic, right? I'm not quite sure.
Oh,
Yeah, but to get to Pug's, there you go, Pug. We're bringing back all the nightmares of his time playing Hearthstone. No, you should be seeing people in chat, Pony. You may want to check that because nothing is blocking me. Let me make sure that nothing is weird over here. No,
No, I
you're
see
not
the
being
chat all
hidden.
fun. Hmm.
You didn't get. I didn't flag you for that sponsored comment earlier. But to Pug's comment about how countries are banning loot boxes,
Yeah.
Belgium and Netherlands,
Yeah, man.
this is a very interesting point. This is something that I brought up in the book that
Hmm.
United States had in 2019 a bill
Yeah.
in place, the loot box law.
Yeah.
And this was something that when Armin and I spoke about, we basically said that if this went through unedited, the mobile and free to play industry would have died the very next day
Boom.
because it basically took a arrow 10,000 hours to the knee on anything that was aimed at kids. Anything, even if the game is aimed at adults, if there's something that's appealing to kids, it falls under this line. And it when COVID hit, it kind of stopped that discussion, but it's
Yeah.
still being tabled. You can actually look it up if you type in I think like loot box law or something and go to the government site.
Yeah.
And with countries that are banning loot boxes and systems like this, again, it raises that question as to is there enough game there to survive without it? And if the answer is no, then that's kind of a very, telling sign about these games.
Right, that they're entirely based on that model. Like to Puck, Puck's point there, I mean, I think it's only good. Like, there's nothing that's gonna stop Blizzard or
Mm-hmm.
any of these companies from doing that. They're gonna, if it works and it makes some money, they're gonna keep pushing at the boundaries and they're gonna keep trying to extract money from you. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep using behavioral techniques, just whatever they can. There's plenty, they can put out another game, they can do other things, they got a lot of tentacles that they can keep going. And I think that this is one of the things they were, laws need to change. They change
Mm-hmm.
really slow in America, like they never change. But they need to be updated for this because otherwise, like you were talking about, children, people with gambling addictions, just like anybody, can easily be taken into these games and spend way more money than necessary. There's no reason that you need to be spending this much money on Diablo Immortal. You should,
Mm-hmm.
I understand games are expensive and take money, and if it's a live service, it takes money. Fine. Subs, battle passes. I'm actually really surprised, like super surprised. Like this would have been the perfect game for
Mm-hmm.
NFTs. I'm so surprised there's no NFTs.
Not yet.
Um, not yet, not yet. That's right, not yet. I actually before the podcast, I said let me make sure there's no NFTs because I don't want to say that, and then someone's going
Mm-hmm.
to say they're already in there. But I mean, it's devilishly done.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, I was really like for a while, I was just looking at the game and kind of taken aback by like how well it was done, like how polished everything is.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good to play on the controller. On the phone, it's not good, but even with the controller, it felt really good. I'm not saying it's like the best Diablo experience, but
Mm-hmm.
it was good and it was really nice. Kind of scratched that itch, and I could imagine myself playing it more
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't with all those trappings in there. Like morally, I can't. I'm
Yeah.
not going to put a dime into that, right? To support that structure,
Yeah.
that type of monetization. You know what I mean? When we're talking about ethical monetization, it needs to be, I mean, just it can't be pay to win. Simple as that. Can't be pay to win.
Mm-hmm.
We can't force people into like mind traps and make them feel like they have to pay to be competitive. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
none of that is going to change unless gamers voice is really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'll work, but I mean, I think legislation and laws are really the only thing that's going to change it. They're going to keep trying new ways. When VR becomes more, people are using VR, they're going to try really cool, annoying ways in VR, putting ads in there and doing all kind of wild stuff that I don't even want to talk about or think about. But so, we have to like now we have to push back on this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Like that scene in Ready Player One when they talk about like
yeah,
they load, they can get like 75% of eye coverage for someone who has
yeah,
seizures.
right, exactly.
Hmm. Let's see. To Chris's comment from earlier about not mixing free and paying players together, a lot of games will do that on purpose because they want to give the paying players that sense of, well,
Yeah.
I spent money. Let me crush this new player,
Yeah,
and then the
let
new
me
player
get
is
the
I just got killed by this guy who spent more money. There's nothing more I can do about it.
right. Either I spend money, join with them, or nothing I can do.
Hmm. And as I guess a brief preview of the next book, I'll go over the 4 points that I decide on. So what makes a game player friendly design, or something that is as fair to play as one can get. So the first point is, does the player feel forced to play the game when they don't want to? Because the problem when a lot of people only harp on pay to win is that it doesn't excuse the other psychological tricks and manipulation that goes into getting someone to force them to play this game every day or spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. And as I said in both the post and the book, that you want your daily loop to be as short as possible. That
Right.
20, 30 minutes, I think, is more than fair for daily play.
Mhm.
I log on, I do my things, I'm done, I'll see you in 24 hours.
Right.
If
And then also a side note with like no penalty, right? If you
mm-hmm,
forget to log in, there shouldn't be a penalty like losing your battle pass or your season pass or losing your daily login, something like that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I think that should be a little addendum to that.
yeah. And I also think it's fair to allow you to pull a daily quest. So if, let's say I don't sign on Monday, Tuesday, I sign on Wednesday, I have the option for my Monday and Tuesday stuff on top of that.
That's a definitely good solution to that. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like that. So that way I could, you know what, if I have a lot of time, Saturday, I could do them all on Saturday and get all my dailies done and still get the awards. Yeah, that's a
Mm-hmm.
good solution.
Yep. And again, like if someone wants to play this game for 5, 10 hours, like let's say someone really likes Diablo Immortal or they really like Genshin Impact, nothing is stopping them from playing it longer. But they're no longer being rewarded additionally for that. This is where the original concept of rest experience kind of started with MMOs. The idea that you don't play, we'll give you, double, triple
Yep.
experience for, let's say, 4 hours, 3 hours,
Hmm.
whatever. You get that done, okay, I'm done. You kind of give the player that idea of, okay, I played for the day, I did my work, I can go do something else.
Exactly.
But again, when you force them, when it becomes, okay, you need to do 12 different things, and now 15 different things, and you must interact with every single system, and suddenly becomes an hour and a half, that is definitely going beyond the veil there, and or beyond the pale. The second point is, does someone feel forced to spend money? Again, this is something that we talked about a lot today, and we'll probably keep talking about. That if the discrepancy between a free player and a paying player is like this, there's no
Hmm.
amount of skill that's going to get around that. If I am the best, FPS player in the world, but my gun does 12 points of damage and your gun does 97 points of damage,
That's massive, man.
there's no get good there. It's a get credit card or a get PayPal and start spending.
No, get currency. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And there should not be anything in any of these games where the solution is throw money at it. And that is a very, again, for a lot of games, when we take that out, the game just falls apart. And, that's kind of the point. You shouldn't
Mhm.
be embracing that kind of design. And, oh, yeah,
So
and,
yes,
oh, go ahead.
sorry. So like a side point, like you're saying, not embracing the design. So the game can be built with that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
but again, if we take it out, it doesn't fall apart. Like it will still function without the monetization, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
it is thought of, it's designed with it, but again, you can run the game without the monetization.
Yeah. To Pony's comment about StarCraft 2, I did not play when it went free to play, so I don't know what they've done with that. And oh, and the other comment I wanted to bring up, what Pony was saying about the rifts, and or was it Pony or yeah, that this was something someone brought up on Twitter, and when I thought about it, it made really good sense that, or it made really big sense that the rifts in Diablo Immortal are just simply gotcha animations. Because if the reward has already been determined before you even run the rift, there's no point in playing it. It's just wasted 5-10 minutes of your time to get the big reveal. One of the things I don't like about an Arknights, I heard they're actually going to change, is that they have these like massive maps that you run to get the free gotcha currency. It takes, even at 2 times speed, about 10 minutes of idling while the whole thing plays out. And they are introducing something that lets you skip that entire thing. But it's been that way for like the last 2 to 3 years, so I'm sure a lot of people have complained about that. And with like the Diablo Immortal, like, what is the point of doing the Rift? It's just, again, wasted time.
Yeah.
Because, again, if it's already been decided, there's no point in doing it. And again, like when we look at something like the rifts in Diablo 3, like there are a lot of manipulations you could do. You could speed run through it. There are strategies, and they're changing that again to make it more monetization friendly, not more interesting for the player.
Delayed loot box.
Yeah. I mean, I played the hell out of Diablo 3, no pun intended there. I got, many characters to full level. I did, like, at least 5 to 6 seasons worth of hardcore play.
Jeez.
I got, like, one character, I got, I think, 2 or 3 characters, full ancient unlocks. Or, wait, I got the set. No, I didn't get all ancient pieces. But, I mean, I put a lot of time into Diablo 3. But again, it always felt kind of like, at the point, it just felt like wasted calories, that I'm not playing it anymore. I'm just going through the motions. And I eventually hit that point with Grim Dawn. Like, I love Grim Dawn, but I made so many characters in that game that, I've completely, got my fill and then some of that game.
So, would you count yourself a fan of Diablo then?
I liked it, but I think it was more like the name and the prestige that got me to
Right,
play it.
right, right. Yeah, I mean that's definitely why I'm even like,
Mhm.
trying this one out and playing it, is just because the prestige. I want to see uh how they really depth into the monetization, like what they did. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm really, it's really fascinating to me, just the
Mhm.
flagrancy of the whole design and everything.
Yeah.
So
And I'm really happy Chris brought up his comment about treasure chests, because another thing I brought up in the book is the idea of surprise mechanics. And this was something that a lot of mobile and major developers have tried to spin over the last decade, that, you know, it's just the same as, opening up a loot box is the same as killing enemies in Diablo, or, well, I should say pre Diablo Immortal. But again, it's not the same, because one is about the player impacting what is happening. I'm playing, I'm killing monsters, I'm getting rewards. The other is, I'm giving you $14.99 or $5.99 a pool. Here's my list of rewards. Maybe one of them is actually going to be something that matters.
definitely. It's just way too predatory,
Mm-hmm.
again, how everything is designed. I do want to play a little more. I probably should just watch a video and see,
Mm-hmm.
but I just kind of want to see, just for a shock value. I want to see like how bad it really does get. I've read all the
Yeah.
breakdowns, I've seen some videos, and stuff like that, but I just for myself, just to, as like car crash analysis in a way.
Yeah. If I get further into it, I may maybe I'll do a dissecting design on Diablo
Right?
Immortal. I still gotta finish the Elden Ring one. I gotta get all that footage together at some point.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and like, again, like with ARPGs, I'm still waiting for someone to do more in terms of making the combat layer, I think, more interesting. I think I've gotten a little bit tired of just point and click in my ARPGs. I need like
Yeah.
more action elements. I think that could be why I respond so well to Remnant from the Ashes. That it felt very ARPG, but was coming at it from a third-person shooter perspective rather than just point and click.
Yeah, the point and click feels so dated
Mm-hmm.
to me. So definitely that's why I had to play with the controller, but it's not fully optimized for the
Mm,
controller. It's a bit off and janky, but yeah, point and click for sure is just I feel it's so
yeah.
dated for this.
And don't forget, in the very first version of Diablo 3, if you try to move away as your dodge, the enemy's hit would still count as connecting if
Yeah.
it if they did the attack while you were next to it. And Blizzard, I don't know how many people remember this, but Blizzard tried to spin this so much as saying, "Oh, it's server lag. It's the internet. It's not, we didn't do anything to, manipulate that." But again, it turned out that it was the opposite. They were manipulating it to make it so you would take more hits, so you would die faster, so that you would then need to get better gear. And once again, we go to the
Wow.
auction house.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wait. So that I don't understand. So if someone buys it on the server, everyone gets it. Hmm.
On account wide. I guess if you make another character or
Hmm. We'll have to play more. Maybe try and figure that one out.
yeah.
I did try Minion Masters. I thought it was okay, but it still felt a little bit on the pay to win side in terms of getting some of those characters. I still miss Forced, the game they did prior to Minion Masters. And then so it's not locked to your account. So if you make another character, you lose your purchases. Oh wow. Oh yeah. And like I've heard some people saying that this feels like a mobile game from like 8 years ago in terms of like fun pain and all those like less than fair purchases, isn't it? Ooh. No, I did not, Chris. Did you see that? Mm-mm.
No. I
Mm-mm.
didn't see that tweet. Did not. I don't know how you can defend it. They would have to totally like backtrack and change everything about the game. Um
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, people will try and defend it, especially fans,
yeah.
influencers, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like as I kept digging, today I found a lot of positive reactions for it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, the game is really good though. I mean, just close your eyes and don't pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to and yeah, like a lot of influencers really get and I'm sure some of them are paid a little bit, but still like I mean, you got to know what agenda you're pushing for and it's not good.
Oh, so he's saying that, yeah, and again, it's any kind of power. It doesn't matter if, one system is completely free, if all your power is over here. And again, when we talk about this, it also responds to your whole game. Not just saying, oh, levels 1 to 45 are completely fair, and then 46 and up, you gotta spend money. It did feel very zoomed in as well.
Mhm.
And then getting back to the other 2 points I have about player friendly, one is does spending money create a unique and better experience? And this is again something that is very hard to walk that line. That yes, you can spend money in this game, but it shouldn't be a case of playing a game like getting like first class on an airplane versus being a coach. And again, people are very receptive to when they see, oh, if I spend $4.99, I get all of these, and then if I spend $0, all this is completely locked and forever barred from me. There was one of the games I played. What was it? Illusion Connect. That they had a one-time purchase where they give you basically a free 10 pool for as long as you play the game. It was like $14. I liked that one because it was a permanent. Like once you spent the money, you never have to spend that ever again. And I think that kind of like tiptoes the line because one of the things that we've said before and we've seen is battle passes. That in many ways, a battle pass could be like almost like a pseudo expansion or a
Yeah.
pseudo monthly subscription. That you spend $14.99 and you get all this content and bonus resources that is locked to that battle pass, and it's tough because I think it does have the advantage that you are kind of condensing all your monetization. You're not saying we're not going to confuse you with all this stuff. We're just saying you spend $14.99, we'll give you all this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, falls in that case of, well, if I don't spend that money, none of that is accessible to me. Like there's no alternative to get access to that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to go either way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have to just get rid of this free to play. Like, we can't be conning people into, okay, yeah, it's free to play, but you spend either you, we should switch to like, okay, if this game needs to run, it needs to make money, it needs to have a sub. You need additional money, okay, you can buy cosmetics and things like that. Um, of course, pay to win things like that. Those shouldn't be allowed, but I think we really need to switch over. It needs to be switched over to a much clearer. We need to stop like trying to swindle gamers and consumers, and it needs to be way more transparent, right? So, like
Yeah.
again, like the battle class, like you said, just simplify everything. We don't have to have different, currencies and different things like that,
Mm-hmm.
because all of that again is just designed to manipulate, force the player to spend money. So we
Yeah.
simplify it, like you're saying, with the simple thing of like a battle pass. You need additional things, sell with other stuff, but nothing that affects the gameplay. And again,
Yeah.
something that can be removed. You know,
Yeah. And again, if you're paying to cut time out of your game, I think that is a major red flag. Speaking about Arknights, like they actually had a purchase. You could spend $30 and you get a free 6-star of your choosing. I'm just sitting there going,
mm,
yeah, that seems tempting, but at the same time, why? Why would I? I feel like that would go like a bridge too far for me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, if you're going to have content to purchase, it should be content that's worth purchasing. Again, this is where we go back to the days of expansion packs and buying, brand new stuff or things like, and again, like the buying like the booster packs or the expansions in a game like Hearthstone or Gwent. Again, I feel like that sits on that line. That we are giving you brand new mechanics, we're giving you brand new stuff. So if I spend the money, I can get that. But again, it's that case of if I don't spend money, is it possible within my lifetime to get this stuff for free?
right, right. And like also I think it should be more, transparent. Like again, this
Mm-hmm.
requires laws and legislation, but like you should be able to know, right? Like, okay, compare to a paying player, it will take me this long to acquire the gems or
Mm-hmm.
whatever I need, right? Whatever currency they call it, right? So it should definitely be more. And again, I don't even think free to play should exist anymore.
Yeah.
It worked, but we should definitely switch over to something way more transparent. I think free to play was used as like an intro in mobile
Uh-huh.
games to get people in, and I feel we need to move
Mm-hmm.
past that.
Next topic we need to discuss was an indie developer, and we'll figure out a new tag for that. That'll be easy. Yeah, and I've been
Right?
hearing.
I'm down. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
I've been hearing some people will say that some games have been just saying it's now like free to start, that
Free
it's not
start.
free to play, and I
Yeah,
think
free
that could
start.
be, I think, a step in the right direction.
Hmm.
But like you've been saying, that I think it's ultimately going to come down to legislation.
Yeah,
That there's going to have to be laws, much like how the gambling industry has its
yeah.
own commission and its own what is it, oversight committees and stuff
Right,
like that.
right. Hmm.
Let's see what was going on here. And yeah, to Chris's comment that yeah, like again, it's tough that if someone can play and get access to content within a fair amount of time, while someone else can pay to get it quicker. Again, it really I think depends on what that time is.
Yeah.
That
Or what it is for, right? Because
yeah,
some people will say, well, I don't have as much time because I'm always working, and this
Yeah.
other person has a lot of time, so they can grind, but I can't grind, so I want to buy the thing so I don't grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things. But again, what is it for? And again, it shouldn't be something that gives someone an advantage. Be like, hey, I'm grinding
Yeah.
for a new shirt or something, or a new cosmetic, a new mount, something like that, but not my new plus 20 weapon when you have a base one weapon or
Yeah.
something.
And the game, again, needs to be balanced to accommodate both people who value
Right,
time and people who value money. Again,
right.
returning to Moral Strike Force, it's a good example because it does everything that, Rami and I like yell about. That they set it up that a free player literally could not get a new character when it was released because they purposely made it that the game would not drop enough free shards so that
Yeah,
only paying players could get this new character, and then free players have to wait at least like 3 to 6 months for the next go around. And
that's
all the
wild.
while, those paying players get this new character and can use it in PvP, and the free players are just kind of left there going, well, I can't do anything for another 6 months.
Yeah. To Pony's comment, he wonders how much of the dev budget went to the monetization. Um, I believe the dev team, like if you look at the game, the dev team highly talented dev team. The game is super polished and everything. I think they had a they just hired the best guys they can, the best men and women they can for the monetization, people that have worked in the industry, psychologists,
Oh,
psychiatrists,
yes.
you name it, and they brought them all together and they made sure that everything was cohesive, right? So all those teams worked together to get it working. I think originally I heard that it was just going to be like normal, like a regular Diablo with like skins and stuff like that. But of course, capitalism, came around, and so that was. But I believe it was like two teams. So, but I think a huge amount of the budget was spent on that, right? Because you will spend more on marketing, you'll spend a ton of marketing, you'll spend a ton of those other things because
Mm-hmm.
that's what raises awareness for the game, and that's also what's going to generate money for the game. So they knew that by investing in like psychologists, behaviors, all that, that's going to bring in the money,
And,
right?
and again, that's what Rami and I were talking about when we were talking about wargaming.net. Like, there are companies and people and consultants who do this work for a
Yeah,
living. They work with
yeah,
all the casinos,
yep,
all aspects of gambling industry. They know this stuff down to the decimal point in terms
right.
of yeah,
Their job is to figure out how to get to make you want to give the money over, right? You have to spend it. If you don't, you lose. And so that's like that, yeah, that's their day in, day out job to do, right? The devs are
mm-hmm.
deving, but these guys are doing that. So men and women.
Yep. And again, like while the garage doors opening and closing in the background, that this is what makes these games so effective. They know what these psychological levers are to do this kind of stuff. This isn't, again, throwing stuff against the wall and saying,
Oh
oh, we
man.
didn't think this would make people addicted to spending $800 a month on our game. They know exactly. Going back again to that first time purchase being 99 cents, that's not a mistake. And like again, this is my problem when we talk about this on previous casts. Like when we see like YouTubers and streamers, like I know like Angry Joe does a lot of his angry rants. Like these developers are stupid. Why do they make the monetization like this? Or why is all this? They're just being idiots.
I
No,
almost watched that one, but I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, they're not idiots. They do that for a very simple reason.
Yep,
It
not idiots.
works.
It
This
works, man.
stuff is very yeah exactly. Yeah, what Terrell? Yeah, let me fix that. Sure, I'll fix it. A little bit. You just wait right there. And yeah, to Pony's comment all above about the OP, so that's the things a lot of people complain about with League of Legends. That they release a champion, it's game breaking for a few weeks. By
Hmm.
the time the free player can get access to it,
Hmm.
oh, we've already patched it, we've toned it
Hmm.
down,
Hmm.
and now the new character is coming, in another week or so.
Right.
Yep, and Malwinius, like that's something I brought up in the book as well. You can find that patent, you can search for it, and read everything that goes with it. Now Microsoft owns it because they bought Activision, and yeah, it is again, this stuff works.
Yeah, and I think they have like Azure PlayFab for the matchmaking
Hmm.
Microsoft, so they own all of that. Yeah, they have it all.
Hmm. And again, like getting back to the third point about how free players should be able to access things. Again, I still say there should be cosmetics that are available for free players. That you shouldn't just have an entire system, even if it doesn't have any gameplay affecting value, should still be accessible to someone who doesn't want to or can spend money. Again, if the game is free to play, you shouldn't have something there that is cannot be accessed no matter what. Yep, and exactly, Pony as well, to the legendary airdrop. Again, that's another thing they did. A lot of mobile and live service games will, if you pull a 5 star or the final ultimate thing, you'll get a server wide announcement. So and so pulled this.
Really?
Yeah?
Oh, that's terrible. I didn't know about that one.
Oh, yes. And then the fourth point that I had, can a free player compete against paying players? And this is something that we've
Yeah.
been talking about for a while. That if things are balanced and it is a case of just collecting gear, or again, if the paying stuff just simply gives you more options, but is not inherently better, that's a different story than just saying, okay, the highest amount of damage a free player can do is 40, paying players can go up to 80. There's not really wiggle room in terms of skill at that point. And it's why, for a lot of competitively driven games, they are very keen to, stomp any kind of cosmetic or in game bonuses that affect the balance.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, just we have people that are trying to take your just people that their job is just to balance the game, and they'll lose their mind about that.
Oh yeah, if anyone remembers, I think it was Street Fighter X or Cross Tekken that came out. I think this was like 10 or so years ago. They tried to do something with having gems that you could buy and attach to
Yeah.
characters, and the
Yes.
fighting game community
Yeah.
burned that game. They put it on the they did the witch burning on that game basically.
Yeah, that one kind of because I'm a big fighting game fan, so that one kind of almost had me open my wallet. I was like, ah, but
Hmm. And I guess speaking about that, I guess this is a question for you. One of the things I see that NetherRealm try to do was have like cosmetics so you could mix and match, or they even did something like having different special moves that you could attach to your characters and kind of have these quote unquote builds. And I know for fighting game tournaments, they just ban that stuff outright. That if you're playing, at a competitive level, you must use, preset Liu Kang or preset
yes,
Batman.
yes.
I always wonder if it would be possible or if there's some way to do that kind of customization in a competitive tournament. Because I think about this from a deck building standpoint of allowing, a big point about deck builders is that you're building your own custom deck out of the choices available. But again, I think as I'm sure everyone points out, a fighting game is a very reflex driven game.
Yeah.
That if my Hadouken can travel, a half second faster than yours, that completely upsets, all the timings for combos and, reading patterns.
Man, and even like Wilder, what you don't even think is just like what they are wearing, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
costume, like if you can switch your costume up, and if you wear like I don't know, you get an accessory in your hand, and it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of makes your hand look a little bigger. It doesn't affect your hitbox, but the perception from the player is that your hitbox is so they'll stand back further, and you can, so you can actually like change up your gear and like non tournament stuff and that will affect it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the cosmetics are a no-no, and like just like you can't affect grass quality, I
Mm-hmm.
think in competitive shooting games, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like just like I was just bringing up like competitive shoes. Like imagine if there was like one outfit that is completely camouflage.
Yeah.
And I've seen people talk about this in a lot of competitive shooters that having a outfit that is literally camouflage in a game. That let's say it's all green, and I wear a solid green coat and hat and all that. That's what give me a competitive advantage compared to the guy who's wearing the neon flashing purple to blue
Right.
with a fog machine attached to the back of it.
I did that in one shooting game. I can't. It was like Black Light Retribution. I played that game, and you could customize yourself. And I think one time I had like I was like all pink and every,
Mm-hmm.
and I just was getting shot up just left and right.
Mm-hmm. And I just saw a comment. Oh yeah, to Chris's comment about paying for guns using real money. There was a
Yeah, man.
first-person shooter. This was back in I think like early 2010s. That they experimented with you spending money for bullets. That was you had to
Wow.
buy the bullets and you could then sell the money back,
I love it.
and it came and went incredibly fast. Like no one wanted to do that. And again, it's very much the whole play to earn thing that we're seeing right now. And if every like I had to adjust the ending of the book to say that maybe you have a chance in terms of the NFT market because a lot of people are just downward spiral there. Like
Yeah.
I wish Ramin the best of luck, but I feel like the mountain his game is going to have to climb to be a success.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting like another 20-foot addition every
Right.
like major alert. Uh oh. Oh, there you go. My OBS kind of like had a hiccup there. Okay, we're back.
There you are. There you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. The NFTs have definitely, yeah, they're in a downward spiral trend. Um, but we'll see. Maybe next week we'll have NFTs in Diablo Immortal. All things will be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. What's the other point? Yeah. About that. And again, like with free players being able to compete, like going back to Diablo Immortal with the whole resonance system, like that it should not be a case of there being like this huge discrepancy between being like level 1 and level 100 because a lot of people will argue, well, once you hit max level, all the monetization goes away. But again, how much money do you need to spend to get to that level? Like if there is a minimal cap that you have to purchase in order to be PvP ready or PvP viable, it's not really free to play.
How about, I don't know how viable it would be, but like, if the games wanted to continue using this format, maybe they could, divide, paying players to non-paying players, but of course that goes against the whole concept of the
Mm-hmm.
FOMO and everything like that. But that would be like one ethical thing if we're talking about it designing ethically, but most of these things are not fully ethical at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, like we're joking about like NFTs, but it's very possible they may put something into Diablo. I know Dead by Daylight got into a lot of trouble with theirs. And
I just feel like it's perfect. Like I was playing it and I was like, that armor should be an NFT. This all should be like, I know someone in the boardroom was like they need to be NFTs, and someone was like, look, no, they're not doing really good on Twitter right now. Let's just wait it out and see if they get an uptick.
mm-hmm. Again, like Ubisoft jumped at it like from minute one
Right.
and not doing so well. And Square Enix sold like all their branches, all their Western
All of them.
developers just to get into the NFT.
Right.
This is like
Right.
one of those stories that it sounds like this being like ran as like for a comedy show, but it's real life again. Exactly, Pony. Sell your firstborn, get a free 10 pull.
That's right.
Or better yet, just sign the soul of your firstborn for this incredible deal. Limited time only.
Limited time though. It's
Mm-hmm.
limited time for 5 minutes, but
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Yeah, that could very well be the case, Chris. Again, I know.
yeah,
Again, with
random.
Ramin's game, he's really trying to lean to more like blockchains, not really using NFT as kind of the thing. But
Yeah.
again, it's going to be hard, I think, just like with a lot of these other games, and some that we talk about on Twitter, that the the reason again college fees covered, yeah, exactly. That the reason why people do this stuff is that it works. That again, there is no denying that having 1%, 2% drop rates in a gotcha game gets people to spend money. Having these limited time offers and that the allure of getting that perfect 6-star legendary gem that's going to boost your power 10,000 points, it gets people to spend this money. It's
Yeah.
why Diablo Immortal's pulling a lot of money. It's why Genshin Impact earned back its entire development cost within, I think, like 2 to 3 days of it being
Yeah.
released.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh my god. Two to
Mm-hmm.
3 days of earning back like your entire development. It's amazing. That's I don't know if that's ever been done before, but
Mm-hmm. And again, when this stuff blows up, everybody around them starts to take notice.
yeah.
When
So
does
this
anyone remember when Diablo Immortal was actually announced? I'm trying to remember like what year that was.
Jeez, I kind of remember like everyone getting mad because they were really upset because they were like, "Yeah, this is gonna be mobile," um, and I think people were crying in the auditorium about it, but I don't remember what year.
Mm-hmm. 2019. So that would have been, I think, before Genshin Impact was released. But again, so many single player designers were trying to do stuff similar. If you remember Marvel's Avengers. And of
Late
course,
2018. In
okay.
2018.
Yeah, don't you have phones? Exactly. So this stuff works. And it's hard again to tell someone, don't include this. Because again, when you look at games that don't include it, they're oftentimes not in the top 10 or even in the top 30 of
Yeah.
those sales. But again, that's where this whole idea of the ethical side comes in, that you shouldn't be expecting your game to be making, millions of dollars a day while, trying to fleece and manipulate people to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like you can completely do it in an ethical way. All of this, like
Mm-hmm.
game development, the cost of game development is going up and it's going to continue to go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of this can be handled in a very ethical way that respects players. Um, it should be a transaction between players. We're giving you this value
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to enjoy it and we're going to respect your time. Instead, this is a kind of a different way. This is very aggressive. This is very disrespectful for the player. Um, Not really trusting the player, and so it's the complete opposite of ethical, right? So
Mm-hmm. And like one thing that I don't know how controversial this is, but I do think that there should be studies as to having a max limit someone should have the option to spend in a game. That
yeah,
you
definitely. I was hoping we'd bring that up because we were saying, 500K,
hmm
100K. That shouldn't ever like we
yeah.
shouldn't. We shouldn't ever. I mean, I don't know what the cap should be. Like in my head, this is probably brainwashed from previous, but I'm saying like max, right? 150, I could imagine 200, maybe like something like that. And I think even that's overboard. But
hmm
we should never be approaching thousands of dollars
hmm
spending that someone's spending on their game. These people that are spending this money, they also, not everyone that's a whale doesn't have responsibilities or family or things that they also need to attend to, right? So we're also like neglecting the fact that they are spending large amounts of money on this game that
hmm
might need to go elsewhere because again, this is like people with gambling issues, people that are children, right? People, not everyone. I'd say a smaller like a smaller percentage is cool.
hmm
They can totally afford to spend the money, but some most of the people are probably taking mom or dad's credit card or like spending money that they can't afford to spend because they're forced into this psychological trap, right?
yeah.
Forced to do things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and I think the problem again is that no one has actually sat down and tried to figure out what is a real world cost
Yeah,
to horse armor, to a
yeah,
6-star character, to a fancy new cosmetic. Because
yeah,
again, the developer is basically the house, and they are also creating the product. They're saying, okay, we say this is worth $700, and this is where you're going to get it from. It's from us, and there's no competition because every game is its own closed ecosystem. And
Yeah.
there's no way, again, without legislation, to get
Hmm.
around this. Because I
Yeah.
think we've unfortunately passed a point of saying that a developer is going to come out and, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to define all this stuff on our own.
Yeah, like originally I was like, you know what, this is a defining moment. We should really like be aware of this. We need to stand up and be vocal, but I think we're past that point now. Like the I don't know, the sheep's out of the barn, the
Mm-hmm.
horses out of the barn, whatever. Like it's the coals out of the canary. We're far past the point of going back now. We can't put it back in Pandora's box. Mobile market has shown that this is like one of the most like very viable way to make money with the amount of costs that it does to create a video game. And so like to be able to say we're going to go back to okay, a simpler time, or a
Mm-hmm.
simpler, I don't think it's going to happen. And game companies are not going to be the good guys in this. It's not really the developers. Like most developers and most people are beholden for money because we need money to create the game, to like CEOs and stuff like that, and they are definitely out of for the money, for the profit. And they don't really care how players feel, or how they're affecting people, or how they're affecting Blizzard's name, or how they're affecting this amazing studio's legacy. It doesn't matter. It's about the money. And
Mm-hmm.
this is an art form, and I believe it's magic and an art form, and that's why we love it. That's why we study it. And this is definitely something that is sullying uh, games as a whole. So
Mm-hmm.
if this is definitely something we're going to need to figure out how to deal with it, how we're going to do it. But again, like, what do we do, Josh? Other than legislation?
Yeah, I don't know. Because again, people have voted with their wallets. Like, it has already succeeded. Like, we can't just say
Yeah,
boycott Diablo Immortal,
yeah.
boycott Genshin Impact.
Nope.
They've already made their money and then some. Like,
Done.
it's,
Yeah, they're cruise. They're on their yachts, man. It's yeah, it's way over. That fight is long gone. Like I thought maybe Genshin Impact people would be like, I don't like Genshin Impact, but it was Genshin Impact was too pretty, looked nice.
mm-hmm.
I almost wanted to like get a few pulls, but I didn't. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
And I love a pony summon. That sounds like a game the guy who made Cow Clicker should make. A Whale Hunter. There we go.
Whale Hunter, yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, it's not. And when I looked up, what was it, the
no,
ESA
Mr. Trout.
stats for people who, like about the game industry in 2021, more people play mobile games than they do console and PC these days.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the market is there. Like, it's not going to go away. It's not. No one is going to have a crisis of conscience and say, "Oh, we're going to turn off all of our loot boxes."
yeah.
It's not going to happen,
Never gonna happen.
and it's going to take, I think, by force. I think for a lot of cases for things to
Mhm.
change.
Right, because I mean the companies are going to be willing to poison the whale like for
Hmm.
profit. Like it doesn't someone's going to say, "Hey, you can't poison the whale because we all drink from it." That's the only way. By force, we have to make changes. Otherwise, they're going to find new ways. They're going to call it something else, right? Instead of free to
Hmm.
play, it's free to start. Free to start sounds nicer. It's a little more transparent, but
Hmm.
still there's going to be new practices that they're going to come up with, and new ways that we can get people out. And again, the other scary thing is that we have, just like my son that I was talking about, these kids are being like, this is what they're being
Hmm.
indoctrinated. They're seeing the games like this is the norm, right? It's not like me and you are talking about how this is something that we should be worried about, alarmed. We need ethical design, things like that. These kids are just, hey, this is how what games are, right? Diablo Immortal, that's a AAA game from one of the best companies. That's how it's done. So that's like another side effect that we're not even thinking about, right? In the game design industry world.
Yep. And again, the question is, if something like that loot box law, or if something like what's in Belgium and so on,
Yeah.
gets put
Yeah.
over here, how many games survive?
Yeah.
A lot of them probably are not.
Yeah. Probably not. And but I mean, like that's the thing. I mean, your game shouldn't be just designed around like manipulating and fleecing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if your game can work without that, that's a game. If not, then
Mm-hmm.
it's more like it's a Skinner box or it's a casino or
Mm-hmm.
it's a manipulation machine, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a game like a game. What we consider games as art forms, as enjoyment, as things that we story mediums of story. Just it's totally the antithesis of that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's nothing again saying that you can't make money off of these games. But
Yeah.
when you're manipulating people to do it, when you're trying to condition them to make it the only game they play and pay,
Yeah.
that is definitely a step too far.
Hmm.
And with something like to Melanie's comment about like Magic the Gathering, like again, like we could argue that booster
Yeah.
packs and stuff like that are very much like version one loot boxes. But
Right.
even they have rules to it. They say that when you buy a pack, we guarantee you're going to get amount amount this kind, amount this kind, amount this kind. And I think the industry, at least from this standpoint, they need to establish some kind of standards. Like let's say a standard that you cannot spend legally more than, let's say, $10 of money on a banner or a loot box. That if you spend exactly $10 on this loot box, you guarantee it. Like that's the pity, and that is
Yeah.
standard for every game going forward.
Every game's loot box, every horse armor can be no
Mm-hmm.
more than $5.
Yeah.
Characters, I don't know. It depends, but like, $2, maybe $8, 2 to 8, something like that. It depends
Mm-hmm.
what kind of game, but definitely having like a limit. That's one of the things also that would definitely help. Again,
Mm-hmm.
legislation, man, legislation.
Yeah. Because again, it's not going to matter if one game does it. Because if one game does it, it will just be looked at as the
Why'd you do it?
weirdo
The
game.
weird.
Go play Genshin Impact or Diablo Immortal.
Yeah,
But
why'd you do it the lame way that makes less money?
exactly. But again, if it's legislated that is now the law that you cannot get more money or you cannot ask for more than this amount per banner or per loot box, everyone is going to have to change. And
Right.
again, some of these companies are going to go under. It will most likely happen because they're so intertwined with that kind of monetization.
Hmm.
But again, it raises that question of if your game is so locked to this unethical practice, should it still be allowed to function?
Yeah, I'd have to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It
And
should not
again,
exist.
it's a tough line, and I think it's going to be one that it's going to have to be argued, I think, in the courts and in government. And again, with countries setting precedents of having, these laws, other countries are going to take note of that.
Yeah, and I think it's just I think it's great that they're doing that. I mean, like you said, COVID had set things back, because it
Mm-hmm.
was in 2019 when they were bringing it up. I was
Yeah.
like, great, I think it was around what was the shooter, Blizzard shooter around then when everybody,
Overwatch,
oh
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
around Overwatch, everybody was doing loot boxes, and so it was becoming a
Mm-hmm.
thing. I think a lot of the senators, congressmen, and children were racking up their credit cards, and they're like, "What's happening? What is this?" Right?
Battlefront 2 as well. Remember the
Battlefront
original
2.
release of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, nothing is saying that you can't earn money. But when your game is, inherently geared towards money above all else, and you're not getting fair value out of that, that feels like a step too far.
Yeah. Yeah. Like uh guard rope,
Mm-hmm.
having drop rates. I think they have drop rates, but who's to say they're right or they're accurate? I think
I believe I know, especially in China and Japan, that it is the law
the
that you
law.
must
Yeah.
have accurate drop rates. That you
But
must tell.
here, but in
Don't know.
America, And yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to just buy Diablo. Like I would just pay Diablo and play it. If it was a live service, I'd play it, pay a sub. If I was gonna play it, I'm not gonna play it. I'm just saying most people they'd pay a sub or do a season pass or whatever. But yeah, the way it's designed now, just so
Yeah.
predatory. It is wild. It is wild. So it's wildly fascinating, like how fragrant and how far they were willing to go
Hmm.
with this one, and
Yeah.
with such an excellent and well designed game and studio.
Yeah.
What a combo!
Yeah. And I guess my final point then, to bring this back to Path of Exile and Warframe, like these are two highly successful games that are loaded with monetization and in-game purchases,
Hmm.
but the game is still free.
Yep.
Everything that you can play and experience in those games, you can do that without spending one red cent. So yeah, they changed the name to Battle Pass again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you're
Battle
spending
Pass.
$14.99 a month,
Yeah.
that's a subscription.
That's a sub. Yeah.
No matter how many different names you want to say there.
The paid pass is called Empowered. The Empowered Pass. Pay
Mm-hmm. They just call it pay to win pass and just
to win pass. They should. One of them should do it.
mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
again, like for like the people, like for like everyone, I'm sure who's watching this right now live or recorded, we know these tricks. We
Yeah.
know not to fall for them. We know that the best purchase is not the best purchase. We know the 50 $60 a month passes and stuff like that,
It's not limited time.
yeah, we're the people who generally try to break these games. We try
Right.
to do as much as we can by spending as little as we can. And if we do spend money, we go for what is the best value or what is truly the best value.
Right.
But that still doesn't excuse it about trying to trick people who aren't as versed and aren't as learned about what these things are. Again, that was another reason why I wrote the book, was to kind of just lay out, okay, here's all the ways these games can screw you out of money. So you should try to avoid that. They're optional. Yeah. And again, like, if you can come up with clever ways of having purchases that feel fair to everyone, more power to you.
Yeah, like we were just talking, well, what live services 2 or 3s back, about content, but
Mm-hmm.
all of that was providing value to a player. You know what I mean? It's a developers developing something for you to experience, and but there's no trickery involved in that. We were talking about that.
Mm-hmm. But I think I am out of points. Again, if we get Ramin on, we get another
Just bring them
three,
on.
four
We'll go.
hours here. So I guess any final points from you?
Man, I think we've been over it. I might play a little more and just see what else is going on there. Again, we need legislation. I mean, everyone in this chat, everyone watching now, or is gonna be aware of these practices. And what we're really talking about, we're talking about ethicals for everybody else, like all the other people that are susceptible to this, that are not reading facts and they're not watching
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos and they're not because most people are playing games on mobile games. Like Josh said, it's one of the biggest markets. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's so many different people, so many different, there's the consumers so varied, right? There's probably an 80-year-old grandma right now playing it. There's probably a 5-year-old kid playing Diablo Immortal right now, and they're both purchasing something. I mean, so that's kind of what we're talking, and they've been both manipulated with FOMO or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the issue. Um, I don't know. I've been through all the points, man. It's sad. I think it's kind of sad that it happened to this game. It's a really cool game. Not the biggest Diablo fan, but it's sad that it happened. Blizzard really, Other than that, I think we've been over everything, Josh.
Mm-hmm. So I think the best thing to end on is if you want to save the game industry, be sure to buy my next book. Buy
Buy
like
Josh's book.
20, 30 copies of it. Just like go to
Right.
like all your supermarkets and libraries, like hand copies of it out, and then go buy, 30 more copies, and we'll just,
Right.
and that will save the industry. I'm
We'll
sure
save
it
the
will.
industry. For sure, Josh.
Let's see. Yeah. To
But
Guard Robe's comment again, it is the parents' responsibility, but at the same time, we still can't leave the psychological manipulation intact
yeah,
like this.
yeah, it's yeah. I know the children. Anyway, I mean,
Hmm.
a parent, right? Kids are gonna be kids, and no matter what you can do, a kid's gonna want. If a kid wants to play Diablo Immortal, try and stop that kid from playing Diablo Immortal. I
Hmm.
will. They're gonna want to play it, and you
Hmm.
you could probably keep away from your credit card. That would be good, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about the manipulation and the psychological things going on here. Not cool. Not
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, to Pulse comment, 1 out of 1 million copies of the book will be the super special edition.
Yeah.
I'll have like a secret recipe for something in there. A pizza recipe. There we
We'll have
go.
the pizza recipe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, I'm sure, I'm not lying. It is 1 in 1 million. Just buy 1 million copies. I'm sure one of those will work. Oh, we could turn this
But
into an RNG discussion and talk
right.
about
Right.
that for another few days. But I think we will wrap things up for this week. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you want to follow me, there are my Patreon, Discord, and Twitter up there. Links everything down below. Join the Discord as well and do the liking, subscribing, and commenting.
Same thing for me. Links are down below. Follow me on Twitter. Stay up to date on Samurai Pig. Wish list. Get Josh's book. Join the Discord. And I will see you next time. Me and Josh will see you next time.
Yeah, and you're going to add NFTs and loot boxes as Samurai Pig now
That's
after.
right. That's right. That's at the beginning. I forgot to announce we were going to have NFTs and loot, both of them. And I'm not going to disclose the drop rates though. 'Cause-
There you go, exactly. And if you'd like to suggest a topic for a future show, let us know as well. But we will be back live for our Kitty Games podcast Saturdays around 5 p.m. ET. So be sure to tune in for the record, folks. Thanks everybody for watching. Come back for the discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, whereas in the art and science of games. And until our next show, have a great weekend.